What's up, YouTube? YugiohTube here interviewing Gary from Pawn Stars, who went on the show back in 2017 and offered to sell his Pokemon collection for $500,000. Yes, $500,000. The irony? It's now worth 3 to 4 times that amount. Let's have a chat with Gary from Pawn Stars about the whole situation.
In a world full of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, grading, selling, buying, one card game remains supreme. One man has the insights you need to know. Watch and subscribe now. YugiohTube.
What's up, YouTube? YugiohTube here, joined by a very special guest, Gary from Pawn Stars. I'm sure whether or not you are a Pokemon fan, obviously this is a more Yu-Gi-Oh oriented channel. You know Gary from Pawn Stars. The guy has the greatest collection of Charizards you'll ever see. Over 10 million hits on YouTube. Again, appeared in season 14 of Pawn Stars with Rick and Chum-Li, and it is a very special honor to be having you on the show.
Well, Tim, it's so nice to be here with you and your community. I was honored that you asked. I love Yu-Gi-Oh too. I think, like I've told you in the past, I collected Yu-Gi-Oh all the way from LOB, probably for the next 7, 8 series. And I still have my binder, my custom Yu-Gi-Oh binders, and they're all complete sets. And I mean, I love those cards. I got so heavy into Pokemon though that I had to stop a lot of my hobbies just to keep up with Pokemon. So, but oh no, I'm right with you there, and your community. I love Yu-Gi-Oh.
And before we get into more of your collection and some of the diverse things you have, we're going to get into the whole Pawn Stars experience. That is something I'm sure as a trading card community we've never seen before. So obviously when you went on the show, it was an amazing, amazing experience, both for the hobby and just for fans in general. So what was that like? How was it to get selected? Was it just the bizarre nature of saying, I have these trading cards worth $500,000 at the time, and going to Rick or going to the show and they said, oh, we could really use this as a recording or for the TV show?
Yeah, well, the way it actually came about, now the first thing I want to say is, yes, my appearance was set up in advance. It was, I happened to be neighbors with Rick, and because we both live here in the Las Vegas Valley.
Okay.
And but his producer called me and said that they wanted to do a Pokemon segment, and they knew me, through Rick and Chumley, because we're kind of neighbors.
Wow.
So they asked me to appear. So that's true, but also the negotiation was 100% for real. So in other words, once I had my scheduled time to go in there, they had scheduled the expert to come in. That was all planned in advance. But once Rick and I started talking to each other, that was all new, and that was all totally legit. In other words, had he, thank God he didn't, but had he accepted my $500,000 request at the time, I would have had to follow through with it. I might have had to find a way out of it, but I don't know. I'm supposed to follow through because the negotiation was real.
Wow.
But then when the expert came in and said at $390,000 that was the true value, and then Rick said, "Well, I just want to know what to do with these. I want to know how to sell them," and he decided not to even make an offer. I was actually quite glad about that. In fact, once I left, the expert came up to me and wanted to try to work a deal, but it was easy to say no to that because it wasn't public. So,
Wow.
yeah. So, but now those same cards that at the time I valued maybe around 350, 400,000, but I was asking for 500,000 because I didn't want to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
Now that exact same lot is probably worth over 1.5, 1.8 million.
Wow.
Now, it wasn't at the time, so don't be too hard on Rick, because he was getting the information, because that was in I believe it was September of 2016 and it didn't air until about 7-8 months later. They had already shot up even at that time. In that, but there was no way for him to know that they were going to climb that high. Heck, I didn't know either. I just loved my Charizards. I didn't want to give them up. So that's the story. And then after it went up, that on History Channel, just our segment, our 5-minute segment, when you add it all together with the expert coming and everything, just that right there, that amount of time, that has received over 10 million views on the History Channel's My Segment. And that now is the second most viewed Pawn Stars episode or segment of an episode in the 15-year history of Pawn Stars. So it was number 3. It just passed that number 3, and now we're number 2, the most viewed segment on Pawn Stars. So that's pretty cool. And plus it's been on a few other YouTube channels. Another guy put it up to do an evaluation of it or something. And he has over 3 million views. So no, that definitely struck a nerve. My whole purpose for doing it was because, since I've gotten a little bit older and I'm retired, and that my whole goal has been to help promote Pokemon, help promote the hobby, and to keep it going. And so, that did a tremendous amount of good for the Pokemon hobby. Suddenly, the kids who are collecting Sword and Shield and those newer sets today, they were dragging their moms and dads in front of the TV to show them that episode. Wow. And then they would see me, somebody probably older than them, collecting Pokemon, and the huge dollar values involved. Suddenly those kids' parents started taking it seriously. And so in a lot of ways, it really helped.
And that is really impressive, the sheer fact that it's the number 2 most watched, segment on a very popular show, in a show where there are so many bizarre things that go through that shop, as they say in the beginning in the intro of the show.
And a lot of celebrities, go through there. And there's a whole lot of reasons why we shouldn't be this high. But Pokemon has just taken over. I think maybe that it's the biggest media franchise. It's the top media franchise. Let's see, what would you call it? Like if you compare it to Barbie and to the Disney characters and all that. Well, Pokemon is the number 1 media franchise in the history of the world. So with nearing $100 billion in revenue. So I guess it shouldn't be that much of a surprise that our Pokemon episode and that got so big. Because
and certainly, as you said, the future looks fantastic. As you said, all the new stuff coming out seems to be selling out all the time. The video games, from firsthand experience, seeing 5, 6, 7-year-olds playing the video games is always a great sign. I can't say the same thing, unfortunately, about Yu-Gi-Oh, even though this is a Yu-Gi-Oh channel, or Magic the Gathering. Obviously, that's more catered to an older audience. Yes. So out of the 3, Pokemon obviously has the generational advantage there, with the younger generation getting into it. And Gary, you mentioned in the show that you collected with your son originally, and he grew out of it, but you hadn't. What does he think of these cards now that the values have gone up even more? Do you think he'll ever get back into Pokemon like you?
That's really, really a good question. I was just talking to my son today. We're quarantined, and so is he. But he does my shopping for me and brings my groceries and that. He's 28 or 27 now. I have a 28-year-old and a 27-year-old. He's 27 now. And he was the first one to collect Pokemon. I was involved, though, to be fair, on the business side of it, starting in 1998. But as far as a hobby and collecting, my son started it. He wanted some packs. I bought packs. He pulled a base set Charizard, and it didn't leave his hand for a week. He would sleep with it. He would, and plus what the hobby had done in Japan was incomparable. Nothing was ever like it. And so I knew this was going to be big. And suddenly, like you said, in the, with these new sets, back then, you had sometimes had to travel out of state to get packs.
Mm.
I mean, it was absolutely insane. I had connections with Wizards of the Coast, who produces those along with Magic. And so, I had a little bit easier time getting a hold of product. But through him and his older brother, 1 year old older brother, I participated in their hobbies, their things, and just really ended up just loving Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic, not as much, but all those sets at the time, I just fell in love with them too, just like my kids did. Then my kids, much like probably a lot of your community, fell out of it for a while because they met girls, and then suddenly that took over the front, all their activities. But I stayed with it, and I kept collecting them, and I was selling on Yahoo auctions.
Okay.
There wasn't back then. There was a Yahoo auctions. It ended, I think, in 2001 or 2. Now they have it in Japan. They have for years. But I just kept doing it, and I kept building my collection. I kept buying, selling, trading, doing the whole thing. And but it was very hard for me to sell. I didn't want to give up any of that. I was hoarding it without realizing I was hoarding it. I just didn't want to give it up. And just like all my collectibles before it, I never sold them when it was smart. I never sold them when the prices were up. 90% the prices dropped, went down to nothing, which is okay with me. Of course, with my Pokemon now, I think the vast collection I have. It would hurt a little bit if those prices dropped.
Yeah.
But
well, the good thing is,
yeah, go ahead.
even if they drop by 10-20%, I still think you're in pretty good shape.
That's, and also it'll go back up. I've said many times before that the hobby is safe for 20 years after the last set is made. So now with the Sword and Shield, the base and the new ones coming out, subsequent ones coming out in that generation, 20 years from now, those kids that are collecting those today are going to be collecting those then, 20 years from now. So the hobby is safe till 2040 is what I say. And if these sets keep coming out, the interest remains. It's going to just, that'll, put it out further, 2045, 2050. I won't be here. You will. I won't be here, but, you just remember I said that.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't be so grim on this. Who knows? 20 years, you could still be here, and you could now have 40, 50 different PSA 10 Charizards. Actually, I think you already have 40, right? In first editions?
Min 10? Oh,
yeah.
First edition base, I have 10.
Okay. Very
and
nice.
then shadowless base, I have 12. Maybe I have 11 on the first edition. But I do have 97 PSA 10 Charizards.
Oof, wow. Three away from the big 100.
Legendary, Blaine's Charizard, Dark Charizard. When you add them all up, I have 97 10s. I'm sorry, 99 10s. I just bought 2 last week.
Wow.
And I updated my little auction on eBay that shows them off. Not for sale, just shows them off.
What's going to be number 100? The big number 100?
You know what? I've been asked that, and I've actually given that a lot of thought. I don't want it to be, I don't want it to, I want it to be something special. So I don't know yet.
And in regards to the end game with your collection, obviously you said you keep everything basically no matter what, through the highs and through the lows. Or the end game, are you going to pass them on, do you think, to your family or relatives and hope that they always take care of them like you did?
Yeah, well, I thought I would pass 100% on, for when I'm gone. But a real good friend of mine and a high-end collector, a guy who's been like a brother to me for years, he wanted in on my collection. And so I sold him 16% of my first edition base and shadowless Charizards. At the time, 16% was worth about $80,000. And so, in fact, on Scott Pratt's channel, SM Pratt, on his
Great
channel. We
guy.
did a thing where he was giving me the money, and so I didn't think I would ever do that, but you know, it was something special for him. So you never know when something special comes up where I'll get a feeling to do something, to, you know, sell something. I can always buy more too. So it is hard for me to sell though.
Yeah. Well, and again, at least you're selling to a good guy. Obviously, you know, he's a collector like yourself. I know his prize card collection is through the roof too.
Yes, right.
And he's actually been making YouTube content lately and getting a nice following out of it. So
Yeah, Scott is an extremely bright fellow. He you know, he really has his finger on the pulse of collectible hobbies and business in general. Uh, in fact, if I need advice on something, you know, which yes, it does happen. I mean, I'll talk to him. Plus, he has his own Patreon, so he does that too. So yeah, he's a good place to turn for good, honest advice. Yeah.
And Gary, how many of those Charizards have you graded yourself? And about how many percentage-wise did you buy already graded? And what was your best and worst return, would you say? Was there a return where you were like, this is absolutely unbelievable in a good or bad fashion?
Well, I'll tell you the good one, and you will not believe it. So,
Oh, man.
but I have proof of it. So, because I have my submission reports right on PSA.
Hmm.
So I'll tell you that one last. You know, first off, I really can't think of any bad ones. I've been grading cards since Magic came out. So in the mid 90s, 94, 95, 1994, 1995. I started pre-grading and then sending them in to be graded, then comparing the grades when they came back. I've been doing that 25 years. So I'm very, very good at pre-grading. So I know what cards should grade, you know, and are likely to grade. So I really haven't been surprised with a bad order, at least not in over 20 years. In the very beginning, I probably was like most, you know, of your guys, you know, who have graded Yu-Gi-Oh, their first one or two orders, they're surprised. Well, these were in beautiful shape. You really don't know what quite to look for yet. Over the years, you learn what to look for and what the graders are looking for. And then suddenly your pre-grades get better and you're not surprised as often. So I can't really say I've been surprised, you know, in a negative way in a long time.
And I assume your favorite card or favorite Pokemon is Charizard, or is that just because it had the most nostalgic feeling back, obviously, when it first came out, that was the card to get?
Yeah, well, this might be a little surprising. You know, a lot of my community members and that know I'm a big Venusaur fan. So I would say my favorite Pokemon is Venusaur. And the main reason is I've always liked dogs with squished in noses, you know, the flat, you know, the face is all squished in and that,
Yeah.
you know, pugs or things like that.
Yeah, pugs are awesome.
And then when Venusaur came out with his round nose, and it just made you want to grab his nose and his mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's probably my favorite. I wanted to tell you, you want to know what my favorite submission was?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
because this is pretty crazy. And again, later, I'm going to send you a copy of the sub form so you can see that what I'm telling you is legit.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Because it is so unbelievable that I wouldn't doubt if nobody believed it. I sent in 100, it was about 140, 150 cards, all first edition base, pretty much all first edition base holofoils. And I sent in 6 first edition base Charizards. Now, all my cards, I pretty much pulled myself. And like you asked before, how many of those cards did I grade myself? I would say 90% I pulled and graded myself.
Wow.
Some of the first edition base Charizards I had to buy. My Beckett's 10 Charizards, I had to buy both of those. So anyway, all 6 of those first edition base Charizards came back Gem Mint 10. Consecutive
Wow.
numbers. It was in the 15 million series. 6 consecutive numbered, first edition base Charizards all came back Gen Min 10.
Wow.
Oh, I mean, that is pretty unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
And,
I've never heard of anything like that. Not even close. I mean, today, if you get 2 10s, let alone 1 10 in one submission,
yeah.
it's a big win. So
Now, I used to have, I had a lot of ungraded ones, though, and I would go through the ungradeds and pick out the best ones, and those would be the ones I sent in. I still have, in my set of Charizards, I still have 3 of those because they're all within that 6 number sub numbers or the item numbers, the serial numbers. So I still have 3. They're all within 1 or 2 of each other. So yeah, I have those. The other 3 that were one before it and the ones in between, they just over those early years, that was a long time ago, I traded for stuff, or I sold stuff, or they weren't the best looking ones, and so I got rid of them and to get better looking ones and that. So that was in the rest of the form, I don't know. If you want, I'll send you a copy of that. And at some point, you might want to put it up to show your community and show them what the rest of the cards were, because the entire subform was amazing.
wow.
That was the most amazing part of it, though. So yeah, that will never be forgotten. That was probably 12, 13, 14 years ago.
And Gary, how did you get all that product? You said you opened a lot of them from packs. You said you also knew someone at Wizards of the Coast and whatnot. Did you drive around like a madman, going to all the stores buying sealed product, a base set, or did you just get them online? Because I know online wasn't that big like it is now.
Yeah, well, for me, it was, like I said, I was in the business side of it that brought them to this country. The Japanese CD promos and some of that product, and so I was in before opening day.
Okay.
So I was able to to get those things before they were released. Plus, they were very expensive, the first edition base packs and boxes. But they, at the time, because I was doing so much with Pokemon and already making money with it, I would turn it around and put it into those. Even though they were expensive, I could afford it because of the, my other, work in Pokemon. And so that's pretty much where I got all my product. I still have, as most people who know me know, I still have 9 boxes.
Wow.
For a first edition base.
Oof.
I have a case, and I have 3 loose boxes.
Wow.
So I've shown that case on my Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go check out Gary on Instagram. I'm sure anyone involved in the community, if you search Gary, I'm sure that's the first result that will pop up, because obviously as a community, we all kind of like the same things.
Yeah,
So
it's Gary. It's Gary from Pawn Stars with underscores in between.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Now,
And
I just started. Can I say one thing, Tim?
sure.
I just started Instagram last November, I think. So I've never done it before, and so I'm still kind of getting my legs, on what to do and how to do it. I was putting big marks of my name across every picture, and apparently that was annoying. But I do have almost 5,000 followers, and that happened so fast. So that's pretty good. But, yeah, I'd love to see more people on Instagram. I even have a YouTube, but I only have like 4 or 5 videos, and they look terrible, bad lighting. Unfortunately, well, let's put it this way. When I was born 1954, all the way up till 1960 as a 4, 5, 6-year-old, we didn't even have TV.
Oh yeah.
One person on the block had TV. We would go over to their house and watch TV.
Yeah.
And so I'm no tech expert. I'm learning all this stuff as well as I can. I've learned enough to do what I do, but I haven't learned like you, Tim, had to guide me through getting this thing going. So
yeah. Well, if you ever need any help,
age and generation, I just didn't learn all that. And now I have a 5-year-old daughter I mean, she's on the, the TV, scrolling Netflix, she
Yeah.
knows everything, just like you guys all grew up on it, and it's all second nature. So I'm trying to get the hang of it.
Yeah, well, if you ever need any help in the future, feel free to let me know, or anyone, whether it be
Well,
Scott or somebody else like that. We're always happy to help you, of course. So you've been
sure.
such a big inspiration to a lot of collectors, especially older, newer, whomever.
Uh,
Obviously, and your collection is just unbelievable.
yeah.
And obviously, you do it more for the collecting aspect than the money aspect, which obviously these days is not always 100% the case.
Yeah,
Uh,
when we wrap up here, I'm going to have something to show you that's Yu-Gi-Oh related. So, something that nobody else in the world has but me.
wow.
And one other person I sold one to, but I'm gonna show you something. I hope the camera works well. I'm sure I have posted pictures in the past, so some of your people may know what I'm talking about. But yeah, when we're finished with Pokemon, I'm going to show you that. So remind me.
Oh, perfect. Do you have it on with you so that you could
Yeah,
post it
I
on?
have it
Oh,
right,
perfect.
right over here.
Oh, perfect. So we'll save that for last.
Yes.
That would be
Yeah.
great. Speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh, and you said you do have some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Do you
Hmm.
have sealed boxes of the original sets? Do you have graded cards of the Blue Eyes White Dragon or anything like that, or is that just more of the Pokemon?
I have a few graded cards. I don't even know which ones anymore. Uh, but no more sealed boxes. My son, the one I was talking about earlier, had several LOB first edition sets because we collected them from the day they came out.
Mm,
But over that first year or two, he sold those, and so I have my one set of each of the first 6, 7, 8, like Metal Raiders and some of the Pharaoh Servant. I have some of
okay.
those, but because Pokemon, just consumed my life at that time, I concentrated on that. So
Yeah.
now
And
I do have some uncut sheets.
oh,
Plus,
that's cool.
plus I sold quite a few of my Yu-Gi-Oh uncut sheets.
Mm,
I had two first edition LOB foil sheets,
wow.
with Exodias on it. I mean, I framed them and I sold them, and now they're worth a fortune. And I wish I had them back.
Yeah, the uncut sheets are really cool, especially the first set. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you have any Pokemon uncut sheets of the base set?
I do. I have both the Shadowless, the first edition,
Wow.
and 4/5 base unlimited. Yeah,
Wow. That's awesome.
yeah.
And Gary, do you collect any of the newer stuff? Any of the hyper rares, or is it you just sticking with the old stuff?
You
And
know what? I love the new stuff. I mean, I'm invited to go to pre-releases all the time, and just to keep in touch. But I'm I'm just so busy
mm,
with my vintage stuff that yes, I have the newer stuff, and I try to keep the sets up, and but I don't deal with them much because frankly I just don't have the time, with a 5-year-old daughter, and with all the insane amount of popularity Pokemon has, vintage stuff especially, I just don't have the time. So yeah, if you wanted to see a Sword and Shield pre-release box and things like that, I have that stuff around, but I'm not into it like I should be.
how about the error cards? Do you collect any of the base set error cards, like the Stage Blastoise or the War Turtle error, the Evolution box, anything
I
like that?
love I love Pokemon errors,
Mm,
and yes, I have all those. Uh, in fact, a quick story. When I found out about this is many years ago. When I found about the Blastoise no stage error, I had probably 100, 120 Blastoise, ungraded.
mm,
And so first time I heard of that, I pulled out that stack of Blastoise, started going through them, and I found 5 no stage errors in there.
wow,
So,
5.
yeah, so that kind
That's
of tells
awesome.
me that they're rare, but maybe one out of every 20 or 30, was a no stage, because I had gotten those Blastoise from different places over the years, and
Mm,
yet there were 5 in there. So yeah, they were rare, but maybe not quite as rare as one would have thought at the time. Yeah, I love the airs. I don't know. Have you heard of the cigar Hitmonlee?
Yes, I have one
Okay.
actually. Yeah, it's
What?
a cool core. I don't have the, how there's different forms of it, the
Yeah.
variations where some of them have like the full logo on them and some just have the minor stain.
Now, let me say, this one is different. This one is not that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one, I named it the cigar Hitmonlee because I always thought that a piece of a cigar wrapper fell onto the card and then got encased or got, when the sheets are brought together. And I always thought it was a piece of a cigar wrapper, little cigar ring.
Mm-hmm.
But then years later, a fellow here in town looked at it and he said, this isn't a cigar thing. This is the end of a hollow roll or something. Crown was the name of the companies that made the foil rolls. And so at the end of the sheet, a piece had floated onto a card. So that one is a one of a kind.
Oh, yeah.
And I have bought and sold that 2 or 3 times. And
Wow.
And so now the one you're talking about, yeah, that's cool. And I am familiar with that also. But this one was a crazy one-time, one-off air. And then my other air cards, I like them all, going all the way back to the normal, base length airs. And yeah, I have all those. I've always liked them. The
Ninetales too. The no damage Ninetales is cool.
Now I don't collect those, but my boy Nick, old school Pokemon, he buys them from me. Anytime I find one, I make sure he gets it. And he has, I think, like 23 of them now. He has like 16 or 17 graded, and which PSA is not grading those anymore. So a graded one is pretty special. But yeah, at this moment, he has always got, because he loves them so much, I make sure he gets mine. So yeah, that's a tremendous air. I love that. I love that air,
Really
but
cool.
he loves it more. So I shouldn't have everything, right?
Yeah, and the trainer deck cards are cool too with the
Yes, they
Blastoise,
are.
the 2 different decks, and the 4-position test cards are another one. They're
That's
really hard to
Rusty.
find.
Yeah, that's Rusty. TCA Gaming. Yeah, he was the 4-position only guy. Yeah, he's bought a number of things from me. He's bought uncut sheets of Pokemon air sheets and things like that. And, TCA Gaming.
Oh,
Charizard
yeah.
Authority. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Very good guy.
Very good guy. Yeah.
And just going back on the Charizards, Gary, you mentioned you had 2 BGS pristine 10s.
There's 2 in the world.
There's 2 in the world.
There was one, and I got that one. I won that on auction for $11,800. That was about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. And the next day, I got an email from the guy who was second, and he offered me $18,000 for it. I had just paid $11,800. He offered me $18,000 for it.
Wow.
But I said, no, this is staying in my collection. So that was the first BGS 10 gold label, and then about 2-3 years ago, Leon Hart, who I think most you people know, he found another one. He contacted me and he said he knew a lady who had one, and so he kind of middlemanned the communication, and then I flew out to see him and see her, the girl that had the second one, and that's the one that's signed by Arita on the case. And so I bought that one, and I'm not saying exactly how much I paid for it, but it was under 100,000, but it was over 80,000, so it was a lot of money. So the first one I paid 11,800. Wow. And it's already gone up to that value, at least 80,000. Wow. Pretty lucky, right? Yeah. And so I did buy that one, and so now I own the 2, and there's never been another one. I did do I went to Beckett's with Leon Hart another time, and to see if any of my PSA 10s would cross over to a Beckett's gold label 10 or a black label, but none of them, they wouldn't cross any of them over. So
Mm.
those 10 or 11 that I tried to cross over are the best I've ever had. Because if I had 20 years ago, I sold the worst one and kept the best one.
Mm-hmm.
If I had 5 and I traded one for something else, I traded the worst one, kept the best ones. So those 10 or 11 are the best ones I've ever owned.
Yeah.
And yet none of those qualified to cross over to Beckett's gold labels, or black labels.
Wow.
And it was disappointing, but that video is out there on Leon Hart's channel. And it's kind of a fun one because it takes you through the whole thing where I'm going into Beckett's, I'm turning the cards in. We go back to Beckett's, they return them, we go back to his house and we show the results without knowing the results. A little disappointing because none of it worked, but it made the value of the 2 I have go up even higher because it shows how hard it is to get a 10 on, especially on, WotC, Wizards of the Coast, holofoils.
Very, very tough cards. How about shadowless BGS 10s? Do you have any of those, the pristines?
Yeah. I think I have the only one.
Wow.
I haven't checked that in a long time, or maybe I don't. Don't get old, Tim. Your memory goes there. You think I'd remember that, right?
Hey, I mean, you've been nailing the numbers and nailing the grades.
Well, that's true. So. I'll tell you what, if you look at the eBay auction that I have up that shows all those cards, that'll show whether I have one or not.
Yeah, because I think there is one out there. I want to say there's one out there.
Oh, I probably have it.
Because I know the population of the shadowless 10s is maybe half that of the first edition, if not even less. I want to say it's in the 40s for PSA.
Yeah, for
10.
a good, there's 120 first edition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's 120 first edition base. I'm not sure the number. I think you're right. Yeah, maybe half that amount or less. But that's because they used a brand new cutting machine for the first edition base when Pokemon started. When Wizards got the contract, they bought brand new equipment just for those. And so they had brand new blades and, they cut. They did thousands of things, cuttings with it. And after time, blades get a little duller.
Mm.
So when they started doing the non-first edition ones, the blades were a little duller. And so the edges and corners weren't quite as good, weren't quite as clean. So now you go to
specs. A lot of white on the edges and corners all the time. Even out of the packs, you see that,
Yeah, or sparkle on the front edges. Yeah. If you check out the PSA 10 Unlimiteds with the shadowed versions, they are, they are even worse. They're even harder to get 10s in. So,
wow.
But that's why, because the blades got you. And then just for a little information for your people, they changed those blades when Team Rocket came out. Team Rocket, if you look at Team Rocket compared to Fossil, I mean, they're beautiful. They're beautifully cut, and Fossil are miserably cut. And that's because that's right where the point where they changed the blades.
Yeah, and Fossil's actually been a set that, and Jungle actually too, that's been going up in the past few months. I've seen some prices really getting high, especially on the Dragonite, Lapras. Those are getting
amazing. Yes.
Yeah. And did you ever try this? I'm just curious. You know how you sent the PSA 10s over to try and get the Beckett 10s for the Charizard? Did you ever try to just review the Beckett 10s you had to see if it would ever cross to or move up to a black label?
Okay, now cross over the Beckett's cards to see the 10s to see if they would give it a black label?
Yeah, basically just don't, take it out of the case if it's not a black label, but if it's a 10, you know what I mean? So just a review.
The best of my 2 Beckett 10s, first edition Charizards, I included in that order I just told you about, that where I went with Leon to the Beckett's and that. I included that one asking for an upgrade to a black label because the centering was a touch off, but within their parameters, I thought, but they still wouldn't upgrade that to a black label. It's almost like admitting failure the first time, like, well, we blew it the first time, so, but yeah, I have tried that. As far as crossing Beckett's cards over to PSA, had no luck at all with that. I stopped that a long time ago. Beckett's is a lot more, I mean, PSA is a lot more critical with the higher condition cards. Lower condition, you know, I don't know. But the higher condition card, trying to get, I mean, I sent in the last time maybe about 29.5 Beckett cards to PSA with the condition that it had to get a 10 or they wouldn't crack it, you know, that you know, it had to be a 10. And they were beautiful cards. One of those Beckett's, it was a first edition Zapdos, I still remember. That one crossed over to a PSA 10. The other 19, or I think it was 24, so the other 23 did not.
Wow.
So it's, you have nothing to lose but a few bucks to try it, right? Because like you said, they don't crack the case open. You know, they'll leave it in the case unless it crosses over to your number. So.
Do you prefer Beckett's or do you prefer PSA? What would you rather have in your collection?
For Pokemon, definitely PSA. You see, I started the PSA Pokemon thing. And me and one of the old timers, he's still around, Eddie Brenneschultz, Birdman, him and I did a whole lot of stuff together, millions of dollars of deals and transactions we did together. And him and I, during the downtime after 2003, we were trying to figure out what we could do to keep the hobby alive because it was, you know, way down. And that's when Wizards of the Coast lost the contract and you know, just that whole time was difficult. And so that's when him and I decided to start a PSA Pokemon thing. At that time, if you punched in on eBay, PSA Pokemon, might have come up with 20 entries.
Wow.
Those 20 entries were all Eddie's and mine.
Wow.
No, there were no PSA in that.
Wow.
And so we decided to push that. And so we started sending a whole bunch of PSA. We, you know, we talked them up, we sold them off cheaper to customers and to try to get the interest up. And so PSA is because of those beginnings, that's the only grading company, you know, to use now for Pokemon. And I can tell you this, and you guys can all double check me, if you type in PSA Pokemon, and if you type in BGS Pokemon, there's going to be about 10 times more PSA. So that right there tells you, you know, even for value's sake and that, you want to go with PSA. Now, there's a lot of arguments, good arguments about Beckett's. You know, they're nice cases, you know, those cubes. They're great cases. To a lot of people, they look a lot nicer. And those are all valid arguments. But value-wise, and as far as how many are out there and how many people want them, PSA is the way to go. So, I mean, some of your comments are probably gonna you know, reject that. But what I told you is the truth.
Well, everyone has a certain taste and a certain flavor. I agree with you completely. I think PSA also, because you look at old vintage sports cards, I'm a big sports fan. I don't have much vintage sports cards, but when I look at any vintage sports cards, they're always in PSA cases, you know, so there's always that lasting reputation that PSA has. And obviously the 9.5, it probably drives a lot of people insane because the perfectionism of a 9.5 rather than a PSA 10, people would rather just have the 10.
And a lot of people like to look at those subgrades. You know, they like to see those 4 subgrades and know, why did I get a 9? Well, it's because of these subgrades, and PSA doesn't have that. I personally never pay much attention to that. So for me, that's not a consideration. But again, I can understand why it is for some. Magic the Gathering, you're going to find a lot more Beckett's than you're going to find PSAs.
Why do you think that is, Gary?
Because of who starts it. Because of who starts it. Me and Eddie Brenneschultz and a guy who's passed away, Eddie Gordon, passed away years ago. We started the PSA Pokemon thing. We started the grading Pokemon thing. The cards we brought from Japan were all PSA graded. And they went on the TV, the home shopping network at the time. And so that we started with PSA. And so that's what we started with. That's what we continued with. And that's what ended up being the one. I don't know the story of the beginning of Magic, but I assure you, it's the original people were Pie Sports, and they did BGS anyway, so they started Beckett's. So now Beckett's is it's probably the people who started it.
Yeah.
And maybe had they gone with PSA, then Magic would be a PSA thing now.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you think that a BGS Black Label Charizard will ever exist? Do you think a first edition or shadowless Black Label Charizard will ever exist? Tough question. I know. I mean, you can't really predict, but
I mean, but I'm probably the right guy to ask because I've seen the best that they offer. I own the best that they offer, and I know how hard it is to get that Black Label with base cards. Now these new ones, like you had that new Charizard that came out, got Black Label, sold for 10,000, and then there were 50 more before you knew it. The things were made so well that they had to get Black Labels. They were perfect, right?
Yeah.
Now we're going back 20 years with the WotC cards. Though no cards ever looked like that, right? So no, I honestly never thought any of my best cards had a chance for a Black Label, even those ones I put in on Leon Hart's video. I didn't think any of those had a chance for a Black Label, but I was praying for a Gold Label and didn't even get those, and those were the best of all time. So if one of those ever came out, I would probably sell my house to get it.
Wow.
So if anybody ever gets one of those, I want it.
Wow.
No, I don't think so. I mean, at least not the first edition based Charizard. Something will, some card will, at one of the base cards, maybe they do already. Maybe there's a non-holo that has a Black Label. The holos are hard grades. The non-holos are easier grades, as you realize. But the Charizard, which is the one I'm mainly interested in, I don't think we'll ever see that. I don't know if we'll ever see another Gold Label.
Yeah, my only guess would be is if someone had a pack or a box sitting around or a blister pack where the cards didn't move. If even then, obviously, the chance of a PSA 10 is so low, let alone a Beckett 10. But that would probably be the only realistic shot at something like that, especially since your two 10s would not get that Black Label either. They're already pristine.
Yeah, but that's a good point. That's a good point, because if there was one out there that quality right now, it probably would have been submitted for that.
Yeah.
So you're probably right. It's probably hidden away inside of a box or a pack and just waiting to be pulled out. And
I hope I'm not tempting you to open a box that you got stored away.
Oh, no.
That's smart. Yeah, keep the boxes sealed.
I was offered by somebody we've already mentioned tonight. I was offered $100,000 for one of my boxes out of the case. Remember, I have a case of them with one flap open to make sure what was inside years ago. And they are first edition. They've never been moved. They've never been out of their case. I was offered $100,000 by somebody. If that person sees this and they want to write it down, I don't want to out them. But they can put it. But somebody we've mentioned tonight offered $100,000 for one of my case boxes. So if I wouldn't do that, and that's well over market, right?
Oh yeah. If
I wouldn't do that, I'm not gonna open any myself, or those I'll go to my grave with. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Case fresh boxes, probably mint condition, obviously sharp corners, perfect for collectors.
Yeah.
And did you ever get into the Gold Stars or the E Series or anything like that?
Some, in fact, I told you I bought. I had 97 PSA 10 Charizards, and I just went up to 99. Those two cards was an English Gold Star Charizard.
Okay.
What PSA 10, and then the other one was a Crystal Charizard PSA 10. And so no, I like the Gold Stars and the Crystals, and I'm not a huge collector of them. There's many people that have much larger collections than me of those cards, but I absolutely do like them a lot. And I think I have maybe 5 PSA 10 Gold Stars now. I'd have to look on my.
Wow.
So yeah, I do like them a lot.
Very cool. Very cool. that pretty much wraps it up for me and my questions for you. And I appreciate it, Gary, for answering questions just with so much accuracy. The numbers just come right up to your head. And obviously your collection is just unbelievable. And not only that, you are a great guy too. Probably one of the nicest guys I've spoken with, even on Instagram and of course on YouTube. And you said you had some Yu-Gi-Oh! You had an uncut, was it an uncut sheet or something?
Well, no, it's not. It's, well, kind of. Okay, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. Let me see where it is here. Now, I've never showed this live to anybody before. Okay. Inside this box right here I was playing with, this whole box, it's full of these things. Let me see over here.
All right, let's see.
Okay, what this is,
it's like a foil sheet of some sort.
It's not, I know it's not called the Eye of Anubis, the little, you know, the little first edition silver gold squares at the bottom of Yugioh cards.
Yeah.
It's not Eye of Anubis, it's something else, but those little squares are made off of this sheet. Now, you can see how thick.
Wow.
How thick it is. You can see that this is, and you know it's very, very fine foil.
Wow.
Now, I have it wrapped in sandwich wrap.
Wow.
But I'm going to show you what I made out of some of these. I took off a few sheets. So what this is, it's a full sheet of those little tiny squares you have on all those Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yeah.
Now you're going to see what I made out of them.
It's very cool. There must be thousands upon thousands of little stickers that could be cut out of that sheet. That's for sure.
Yes.
Very cool.
Can you see what I'm doing here? Let me.
Let's see.
I never ended up I sold one. I never ended up selling them because I liked them. Okay, now these are refrigerator magnets where I had the sheet cut and I had I don't know how well I can.
Oh, yeah. We could see that. Yeah, that's
Can you see the eye and you see Yu-Gi-Oh in that?
That's so cool. That's really cool.
Isn't that neat?
That's super cool.
And so I made these refrigerator magnets in this is about the size of a silver dollar.
Wow.
I made those in different sizes, little ones and up to this bigger size one.
Wow.
And then I also made them, I'll show you. This box is full of those.
Wow. It's like hidden treasure.
Yeah. Oh. Cheeto box.
That's really cool. So you made that yourself. You took it from the sheet and made it into magnets?
Except I had it done professionally.
Very cool.
Because they're very hard to do. Now, I also made them into squares, which I'll show you here. I hope I'm doing this okay for the camera. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah.
Made them into squares.
Wow. Really cool.
And what they actually are pins.
Wow. That is super cool.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was really hard for them to work with this because I mean this stuff is so fine.
Mm.
I mean, just imagine, all it is that little square on the cards, right?
Yeah.
And these happen to be gold, which was designated first edition,
Yep.
like you know, and yeah. So I'm glad with you can see that pretty well.
That's
But
probably 100 cards worth. That's probably enough stickers for 100 cards.
yeah, yeah,
Really
right,
cool.
exactly. And
Yeah.
now just imagine I have hundreds of these, and I still have, I don't know if you can tell how much is left on this sheet,
It's a
but
lot.
I mean, I use very, very little to make all these.
Wow.
So it
Wow.
looks a little funky because it's wrapped in the sandwich paper, like you see. But let's see if I can get it.
Oh yeah,
You can kind of see what it is, right?
Very awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. And how'd you come across that?
Oh boy. You know, as many of you guys know, let me put this way. Upper Deck made the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, down there back then, or
Mm-hmm.
manufacturer to put them together. They had a big involvement. Well, there was a guy who was an employee that was a little bit less than honest,
Oh.
who worked for them, and he got away with a couple things that I ended up hearing about and getting from him. And remember, this is 20 years ago, so it wasn't that big of a deal when I first bought it. I can tell you this: for that entire roll, I paid $1,000.
Oh wow.
Which was a ridiculous, at the time. It was nobody could believe I would waste money like that, because the thing meant nothing. It's just that I thought it was so neat, such an unusual item that obviously. And then I started making things out of it and having a lot of fun with it, and one girl, I showed that somewhere on one of the social media things, and this girl wanted one so bad. I did sell her one. I sold her one of the little ones for $50.
Oh, very cool.
But now figure out how many are there in that roll, right? I mean, I used very little of that roll to make all those.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, out of one of those, you can make 50 cards.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, I thought that would be kind of special for your community to see. That has not been seen before live by anybody.
Really
I have shown pictures of it in that. So yeah, so I hope they enjoyed seeing that.
Well, if you're ever looking to sell any more, I'm interested.
Okay.
My hand is up.
If I do, you're number one.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
And you can really see how it shines too. It really, really shines. And the colors,
Yeah.
it's just so vibrant too. It's awesome.
Right. Yeah, because you can see the little one a little bit, but when you get a bigger sample, it really, really shows.
Some of those items are probably some of the coolest items, even cooler than some of the graded stuff, because you just don't see that. It's not something you could go online and if you ever save enough money, you could buy it. You just can't find that stuff, which makes it really unique.
Right. Yeah. And the people, and I've been looking for that, for 20 years, and I've never seen another one, never seen another roll, never seen a little piece of the roll from anywhere else. So that's why I said originally it might be the only one in the world. It probably is. And
Wow.
it certainly, one has never popped up. So
very, very cool.
Yeah.
And
so I'm glad I got to show you that.
Yeah, that is awesome. I can't wait to upload this video.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So again, I really appreciate it. I love that obviously that role was just super cool. So again, I'm excited to see what some of the comments say, and obviously thank you so much for taking almost an hour of your time, if not more, to come and speak about the hobby, whether it be Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and obviously the experience on Pawn Stars. That's probably never going to happen again, but you never know. Maybe they'll have you back for a repeat.
Yeah, considering how many views they got, you would think they would invite me back. And I would love to go back.
And I don't think Rick this time is going to say Pokemon. I think he's
I know, right. Yeah, maybe I could come back with some Yu-Gi-Oh. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Have you been paying attention to the PSA, the SMR magazines? They've been highlighting more Yu-Gi-Oh lately, which is cool.
Yeah, they put in some Yu-Gi-Oh. They started putting in the Pokemon. with some of the guys, Gem Min Pokemon and
Yeah.
it's SM Pratt, put in some of their articles on Pokemon Now Yu-Gi-Oh! And
Yeah.
I mean, it should have happened before
Yeah.
because they have big enough parts of their market, to feature.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it's happening now. Yeah, and I'm glad to see Yu-Gi-Oh! And I hope they go on to other, collectible card games and trading card games and that.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Any last words you have for the viewers or anybody out there about collecting or experiences or any
Yeah,
recommendations?
I get a lot of laughs because my social media footprint is very, very small. I just simply try to help other people with what they do and don't do anything myself. In November, I did start that Instagram, Gary from Pawn Stars, separated by underscores, and seeing those numbers go up is fun. I love watching that. So,
Oh yeah.
and I show some super cool things too. Uh, and then, but I usually, mention my friends, like SM Pratt, his channel, which is a great informational channel, whether you're Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, or whatever, you can learn a lot. And my boy Leon Hart, I mean, what a treasure he is. He's he's like a son to me.
He does
And
great for the community too. I see him do charity causes and stuff for a
he's
lot of
so
cards.
enthusiastic. And I've spent time with him and spent time at his house, and
Very
I'm
cool.
telling you, this guy is legit. I mean, what you see is what you get, and that enthusiasm and that is not put on. That's
Hmm.
all real in that. And yes, he does a lot of good charity work. Last year we raised 68,000 for the National Alliance for Mental Illness. Next year with the coronavirus, now we can't do a charity
Mm.
thing this year, but next year we're going to be doing something that's going to blow a lot of people's minds, as far as a project we have going on using content creators. All the biggest content creators, they've been contacting me to participate. That's how
Very
big it
cool.
is. And everybody wants in. So yeah, next year we're going to have a great charity thing, featuring Leon Hart. And and I don't know, maybe at some point, we'll get some other things going, but it's sure good to be a part of it. The community is fantastic. And I mean, I'm just so, happy and proud to be a part of it. And I'm happy and proud that you asked me to do this. And, anytime I can do anything to help, I'll be there.
That's just awesome.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm just a small fry. You say you're a small fry on your Instagram and you see the numbers go up. I'm not even close to what you have yet. So,
But that's only because of my popularity, the people knowing me from 20 years of doing this. And
well, I think you should be 10, 20 times what you're at right now at the minimum. So
okay.
let's hope
Yeah,
you just
well,
keep going up. And obviously Leon Hart, I never had to meet him. But it's great to hear that he is what he is online. Because sometimes you do hear about those people where their online presence is one thing and then you meet them in person and it's kind of just, well, not
right.
the
Well,
same guy.
you would not be disappointed with him. I did a signing with him. I know this is turning into the Leon Hart show, but I did a signing with him at the Dallas Regionals this last year. And I mean, all the people would get in line to get our autographs, more for him than me. But he would actually stand there, autograph, ask questions to each individual, talk to them, about their stories. And I mean, he really cared. So, I mean, I respected that. Anyway, at some point you'll get to meet him, and we're going to be doing a lot of things together. So
Very cool. Very cool. And if you or anyone else ever has Yu-Gi-Oh questions, I can try to answer the best of my ability too. So,
I'm going to remember that. There's a lot of times I could have used you in the past. I'll tell
mm,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, Gary from Pawn Stars, a great guy, class act with an amazing collection,
Thank
and
you.
obviously just very, very, very informative too. So, Gary, thank you so much for coming on the channel. Really appreciate
Well,
it.
thanks for asking me, Tim.
Thanks, Gary.
Bye bye.